Welcome to Brainstorm9000.
Got a brain? Your brain wants to listen to this podcast.
So open your brain.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to the world of Brainstorm 9000. Sometimes, because I cannot say usually, we are accompanied by Hermes. As you know from your previous experiences, Hermes frequently goes to the mountain Olympus, where he has a full-time job, and this seems to be the case. We also have not been releasing weekly. It's also because our schedules and recording situations changed, but we are going to try to stay as close as we possibly can with you. Today I invited my own daughter, Paulina. Hi, Paulina.
Hey, guys and gals and everyone who's listening.
How do you spell your name?
Polina.
How come?
Immigration sounds it out. So in Russian, you say Polina. So it's
Right.
not Paulina.
Right.
And I have been told I was named after a shooting star.
Yes,
Polo,
at the time of your birth, I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was, but at the time of your birth, a particular star was.
Polo star.
Yeah. So
That's the explanation, at least I was told
So-
younger, is where Polina comes from.
so one day you'll become very famous.
And here's where I begin.
So actually, of course, we discussed what we are going to talk about today and decided that maybe we should talk about a situation that's developing right now when life begins to feel more and more like virtual reality. Wouldn't you say so?
I say I've been questioning
Uh-huh.
uh, existence in terms of realities and dimensions more and more as we progress with technology, and probably also because I've immersed myself in geek out sessions of TED Talks and Elon Musk's theory on it. So yeah,
Well, Elon Musk says it actually pretty openly. He was
Yeah.
asked that he is 99.9% or something like that sure that we live in virtual reality.
yeah, which I have a hard time accepting from a spiritual existence standpoint, where I'm like, but then what does that mean? And then I go into a black hole of thinking, well, then what happens when I wake up in this game? And if there are any Rick and Morty fans out there, Rick and Morty have an episode where he literally lives a lifetime through these goggles and is like, oh my God, I literally, it's
Yeah.
pointless end to it. But basically, I'm like, oh my God, what happens? I don't know. I just think there's some deeper levels, but I feel like my understanding is a mix of that and then like the Matrix and
The Matrix, like in the movie
the
Matrix?
movie, and then Avatar, and then Westworld, which is a show where basically you can go into this town that looks, I know it's evolved and we're on multiple seasons, but let's say the first episode concept, they create robots that are so human
Right.
that you can go in and you just like if you want to kill someone, you're killing a robot. You know, like humans go in and interact and then they become self-aware. From my understanding, I didn't really follow the show, but yeah, that's my mix of reality now. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest we start from thinking about
We're in a video
something,
game?
smaller,
Like what?
like the entire world situation. For example,
Okay.
my other daughter and her husband and my grandson are moving to Europe soon. So it always bugs me when I'm about to take a trip that right now I'm sitting here with you, let's say New York City, and in about 10 hours, if I were to go to Moscow, I'm in Moscow, which is a totally different world. So as we're sitting here right now, over there are people walking around and they drive cars and they get into accidents and get born and die and blah, blah, blah. But we are so far removed from them that if somebody shows it to me on a screen, it's like unreal, right?
Well, there is a theory about it where
Yeah.
it's kind of like, do you know the video game Sims?
I heard about it. I don't know what it is.
So you create avatars, right?
Right.
And basically, what you don't see in their world immediately,
Right.
doesn't actually exist until that character shows up to that. So like in that theory, if we were to put it in the human world,
Right.
Moscow doesn't actually exist
Right.
because we're, let's say, we're in a video game,
Right.
you know, whatever 3D land,
Right.
in a computer thing.
Right.
And when you show up, the computer creates it, but it doesn't actually physically exist right now when you're not there.
Yeah.
Bug out,
Big time.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or for example, this morning I was driving on the streets, and there was traffic. And I'm thinking to myself, here locally, there is traffic.
Yeah.
But somewhere else there isn't.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
No, some people are busier. Like, and in a small,
But does it exist?
when you're there, you've seen it.
Yeah, but if I'm not there.
It it depends if you, like, if I take the theory I just told you about, I can really be like, oh my God, that could not exist unless I see it exist, right?
Right.
You can FaceTime someone who allegedly is in traffic,
Right.
but that could also be a digital creation that person could be a rendering, and until you see them in person, they don't need to form.
Yeah, but I can turn it around very easily for you and tell you this much. Now that we do have FaceTime
Yeah.
capabilities and capacities, we can see that actually it does exist. On the other hand, we are significantly more connected.
Yes, but this theory, and I want to be clear, I'm not a believer. I just read about it very recently, and it's one of those, if I really were to dive into it, I'm sure it would mess with my sense of reality a lot further. But in this theory, what it says is like what you see on your phone
Right.
is just a computer, like it's not like you're seeing it as a digital thing created on your phone.
Right.
You're not physically with it.
Right.
I don't believe that, because that's a lot to take in.
Right.
And I agree that the world luckily is a smaller place because of technology, in my opinion. Yeah.
On the other hand, and I think I said on the other hand more times than two.
We've got a lot of hands,
So
man.
a lot of hands, like Shiva, which also has different avatars, and only one of them happens to be this female-looking creature with, I guess, 6 arms.
Some number.
Dancing, yeah. On the other hand, we've been living in kind of a virtual situation for a very, very, very long time, because a lot of things that we agree upon actually do not exist. You and I spoke about it yesterday or today, I don't remember. Money, for example.
Yeah.
Humans at some point, and I did not do deep research to find out at what moment exactly it happened. I don't think that anybody knows when exactly it happened, although they point toward Babylonian times. I'm not saying it happened in Babylon, maybe even before, when people decided that it's very inconvenient to exchange things, right? Because, for example, let's say that we live thousands and thousands of years ago, and you come to my town to sell apples.
Mhm.
But you need bread,
Yep.
and I make bread. So you come to me and say, look, I have a few bags of apples. How many loaves of bread can you give me? So, and then I say to you, look, people like you have come to my place since yesterday. I don't know what to do with apples anymore. So goodbye. Sorry, I cannot give you anything anymore.
Or you start trading your apples. But then it's
Right.
also interesting because it depends on those two people to decide how many apples equals like one loaf of bread.
Right.
And that's not I think that was a various thing.
Yeah,
like,
but people used to do it though.
No, I know, but I'm saying I don't think there was a set like 10 apples equals one
Right.
loaf. It was just whatever they decided in the moment.
Well, we can guess whatever we want, but at some
But
point...
they still do it in some parts of the world when it comes to marriage. It's money,
Dowry?
dowry,
Yeah.
but dowries include dollar amounts and things like farm animals. They don't
Like
just
sheep.
like sheep or some form of cattle or some form of like a goat or pig. I don't know about pigs, but there are other animals involved. So it's like money plus this.
Yeah, but let's go to the money idea.
Okay.
So At some point, people decided that they trust each other enough, okay? So they can, instead of exchanging real things, exchange virtual stuff. Initially, it were coins that were made out of actual gold, right? Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm listening before I respond.
Right. But this is a lot of trust, and this is a lot of imagination to put in if you come to think about it.
It's imagination, but I think
Because things when I give somebody $20, right?
But is it really it's trust in your leader? I can't say your government, it's in your leadership, because when society decides to take over and then there's a ruling army of that area or a ruling something of that area presence, right?
Right.
And they all of a sudden come to all the people in that village or all the people in that land space and go, oh, yeah, by the way, all of this means nothing and we're going to physically enforce it. These shiny things or these paper things
Right.
are now what you use. And in order to get them, you
Right.
need to do work for us. And that's kind of like the idea of how let's say a town or a city works is you're told you have to now do this.
Yeah, but today, for example, this day and age, 2019,
Yeah.
when your sister and my daughter goes to Spain and gives them dollars.
You mean your grandson, right? I'm not going to Spain.
Yeah, my other daughter and my grandson and her husband go to Spain.
Yeah.
And they give dollars. They'll still get in exchange euros because now they have euros, and they'll use euros to buy goods.
Yeah.
But they never worked in Spain, and euros does exist for all the European countries who are the members of the European Union. And if then they took these euros and went to Africa, they still can exchange them and still. So now we have an international, worldwide net of basically virtual situation. When you bring a piece of paper, or I'll make it even more real, a credit card. No, Bitcoins people don't use it yet to pay, but you can come with your iPhone and basically pay with nothing.
Yeah.
So this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
This is virtual.
Yeah.
Money is totally virtual right now. So we are living, at least in this part, in a virtual reality. Because
I get
money, money is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Do you use Apple Pay ever?
No.
Never?
I know a lot of people do. I'm slow on connecting that far in because it makes me uncomfortable.
Because?
It's so virtual. Like I know I have an online account. Like I'll scan checks in and I use Venmo. I'll be clear on that. Like, which is similar
also
concept.
Totally virtual.
But I'm just like uncomfortable with that idea. And also now Apple came out recently with their own credit card, like their own money form. Their own like form of
it's an actual credit card. I already saw it. It's beautiful.
Sure, but you're never going to touch it because you have Apple Pay. Why do you need to see that? Do you know what I mean? Like, okay,
when you go to a restaurant which doesn't accept Apple Pay,
more of them, less in the U.S. But like when you go overseas, when I was in London, for instance, it's weird for them how slow my card. I couldn't just tap it, or my phone wasn't hooked up where you just scan something in. It's a lot more digitally forward there.
In London?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I don't know. It just creeps me out. I just feel like we're all more hackable that way. And I would like to delay it.
Well, hackable, schmackable, but it's
going that route.
Virtual.
When I have to do it, I will. But I kind of like.
Or for example, do you ever park on the street in New York?
Rarely, but yeah.
So just to enlighten you and all the brains of the internet that listen to us right now, because we can't enlighten the brains who don't, right?
Hey, just as a side fact, I got to grow up with this amazing personality that you guys get to listen to. So this is awesome. I'm with you guys.
Okay. No, the brains of the internet wasn't actually my idea. The first co-host, Master McMaster,
I remember.
who's, by the way, still alive and doing pretty well, from what I can see on the internet, came up with this idea. Hello, the brains of the internet. She would say with her deep female voice, right?
Yeah.
So you can park right now in New York or in New Jersey.
Through an app. Basically, you pay through an
Yeah,
app.
you
Yeah.
basically park your car. The parking area where you are has an ID, a digital ID. Let's say 24 55 66. And if somebody lives in this area, I have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'm sorry. I don't mean you. And then using your app, you
Yep.
just mark this area. I first actually saw it in Moscow, which actually seems to be also more digitally advanced
Yeah,
than here,
I think overseas.
because there you can park and then there is no time limit. So you could be sitting at the restaurant and it alerts you that in 15 minutes your money runs out. So then you just add more money.
Yeah, that's the whole
And
point.
if you come out and it's earlier than you paid, then they reimburse you.
Oh, that's nice.
Right. But what I'm saying, money like totally doesn't exist right
Yeah,
now.
there's
Right?
no.
We are exchanging some digital ideas with each other.
We're going green.
Well,
The opposite of it,
green
but
means
like
the
meaning
dollar.
like
Yeah,
no, I
the-
mean going green in the sense like everything's becoming paperless and digital, which is fine in some sense, but I personally don't. I liked not all not all of society that's paperless, but I like things like,
real books.
I can't say I will never.
Never
'Cause
say never.
Never say never, but I love the sound of a book opening, the smell of an old book, like when you go into the library and that crackle of the spine of the book when you open it. Ugh, I can't. Like, it's very satisfactory for me to flip a page and then finish a book and write in it if I want to. I haven't gotten onto the Kindle life yet, or the just reading books not on paper.
So I have more than one Kindle. One of Kindles that I have
Yeah.
in my house actually is large and pink in color. Do you know why?
So you don't use
I
it?
bought it for grandma.
Oh.
And we loaded up with a bunch of Russian books.
Oh, nice.
And then when I gave it to her as a gift, she said that she's not going to read
Yeah.
it. She refused. She preferred to read. But it was so much more convenient because, for example, she had a particular writer. In Russia, they have a very, very famous, very interesting fiction writer. And she liked her books. So we loaded all her books on this Kindle,
Yeah.
which would give her an enormous library, very large library. And it would be so convenient. And
Yeah.
you can change the size
Yeah.
of the
font,
letters, or you can change the font. She tried it and said absolutely not. So I still have it because I don't know what to do with it. I don't need more than one Kindle, but I
Yeah.
have more than one. So I take my Kindle usually on flights and wind up watching movies. Do you do the same thing or no?
Well, we know I try to sleep through majority of a flight I'm on,
Right.
but I'll typically end up either bringing a book with me that I've previously bought or buying something in the airport, because pre-flight Polina convinces herself she needs to buy things like a 5-year-old to feel better. And then I just sleep the whole flight, or I'll play like now you can watch TV, so I'll end up
Right.
watching like The Big Bang Theory because it calms me down. I
You
don't know.
like The Big Bang Theory also? Like me?
Love. I
Okay.
mean,
who's your
inside joke.
favorite? Who's your favorite character?
I like them all. I mean,
Sheldon.
Sheldon's awesome. I like Penny for just
Right.
all. What's her name?
The
Sheldon.
scientist.
No, Penny's the
Sheldon's-
blonde.
yeah.
Then Sheldon's girlfriend, Amy. Is it? Yeah, because they call them
Yeah.
Shamey.
Right.
I don't.
Actually,
It's,
the actress who plays her
yeah, she
in
used to be
real life
Blossom.
is a neuroscientist.
Yeah, she's super smart. She used to play Blossom, which was a show when I was a kid.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah, no, you definitely. So her best friend's name was Six, who talked really, really fast.
Right.
And I tried to talk as fast as Six.
Right.
And that's where really talkative Polina's origin story lives.
Right. So
Yeah. We really digressed. I'm sorry.
No. That's
We're
totally
far
normal.
from home right now.
No. We actually didn't digress because flying on the airplane from one place to another is kind of also weird because you board the plane.
Yep.
It's a significantly smaller place, and you live almost totally in a virtual world because you are totally isolated from real life.
And you don't actually know
You
how
are
don't
in the
see.
air.
Yeah, you see
You don't know how
something.
to fly the plane, right? Somebody flies you.
And you don't really feel like you don't feel like you're
Moving.
like going forward. You just
Right.
you're around wind,
Right.
and turbulence lets you know it.
Yes.
But you don't actually, you see land below, right? And people on the ground see planes, but you don't. It's just clouds, and you don't know genuinely how long you've
Right.
You know what I mean? Like time, again, time is also a concept. And so time passing,
Yeah,
that's
we
another one.
decided, if we had a scientist here or a very good educated astrologer, they would explain to us that actually the way the time is calculated
Yeah.
has a scientific background because the Earth
Yes, yes,
rotates
yes.
around the sun
Yeah.
in about 365 days,
Yeah.
and then
the Earth
the,
rotates
the period between the sun rising
and setting.
and setting is about 24 hours,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Another virtual episode from our life, you and I,
Maybe. I guess we'll hear.
or
What?
you and me,
You,
went to the movies. You
you
and
and
me,
I.
you and I.
The trick of you and is if you would say me or I without the you and. So if
Yeah.
you
So
said
you and I went to see a brand new movie,
dope
which
movie,
is
guys.
called
Gemini Man with Will Smith, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Do we recommend it?
I do. So someone asked me after, like, is it worth going to see in the movies? We did see it in 3D.
Right.
I
That's
don't.
exactly my point.
I really like it. I don't know. I think
Okay.
it's
So
worth going to.
when we were in the movie theater,
Yeah.
movies now go for about 2 hours, give or take. So this movie was about 2 hours.
Yeah, it's 2.5, I think.
Not 2.5.
Oh, it wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all this time we were glued to the screen, and we lived inside of this movie together with the characters.
Well, because we were also respectful and of the purpose of why we were there versus other people who might be on their phones and like unplugged, so to say, from
yeah,
that
but
experience.
let's not try. Yeah, but also living a virtual reality inside of another virtual reality
Yeah.
situation, correct?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you and I basically
Kind of.
spent yesterday 2 hours inside of the movie, right? Once they, if we had VI glasses on us, like a
I mean, we weren't
real
like
virtual,
proper in it, but yeah, I get
yeah,
I get the point you're trying to make. We weren't like Avatar in it, you know what I mean?
well, but we weren't in reality,
No.
right? We were inside of the movie, feeling
well,
for the
movie-
characters, following
But
the
that's the
script.
same as reading a book. You get
Right.
lost in a world just in your imagination. That's where the virtual reality is, not on a screen being fed it.
So we just made a huge discovery, Paulina.
What?
Maybe virtual reality has begun from the moment people started dreaming about things and kind of disconnecting from where they are and going into a different world, which is imaginary. Is it
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yeah.
So, is virtual reality real?
It's- Well, it's someone's real. It's someone created this something that you go into. You don't know if that person was created by someone else, right? Like
Right.
it could be a never ending, like, oh, it's just a tunnel and a tunnel and a tunnel of.
Which is kind of like the end of the first Matrix. No, the first Men in Black. Remember when they come out of the door and there are other creatures and other creatures and other creatures.
Well,
yeah.
also, there is a theory that we're like I've gone down a black hole of a lot of theories of existence. If you can't tell, because I'm going to say there is a theory where
Right.
we're like a petri dish for a higher. We're basically like a science study project for a higher.
Intellect.
Yes, where they just kind of are observing what happens under these circumstances, either to learn about history, like
Right.
if our type of society already existed and we just don't know about it,
Right.
and they want to see like how that played out under whatever calculated circumstances they created this. So for them, that with you saying, is virtual reality just whatever you said? I
Right.
think there's a creation point of someone's virtual reality, and I think that's kind of cool because you get to let someone experience a world that they wouldn't normally, because you see certain things and you create in your mind certain amazing stories and you can just step into it. And I think that's just creativity as well. Like,
No, it is. It
you
is.
know?
It is creativity, big time. Period. End of story.
if I were to talk about it from like the earth versus like a movie, that's a bigger thought. But like from at least movies and video games and books. I'll put books in there because you do get lost in a world. You get,
Of course,
yeah.
that's exactly my
It's just
point.
not
that-
all bells and whistles.
So even beginning from, and I don't know what started first, people performing in front of other people, like did theater come first, or people writing, stories so they can be then materialized, which is probably wrong way
I
to
think
put
the
it.
paintings on the walls based on real life happened and maybe actually no, because stories were passed down like in tribal times. They told a lot of things. Like it was
Right.
more of a like you verbally passed down a lot of the knowledge.
So we've been living in virtual reality since the time we probably, as Homo sapiens, were able to think.
Well, I said this to you yesterday on the way
Right.
back from the movie. I like bear with me. I'm going to try and connect the dots here.
Right.
So for me, part of like education as well, it's like one day people decided we're going to sit people from this age to this age in a room and we're going to tell them what's happened as far as we know what's happened up until this point. Or, first it started with you hand down stories from tribal times. It's, it was much more eloquent and I feel like magical. And you have like fairy tales and stuff that are semi-based on truth. But there's probably a lot that we don't know that we haven't discovered and that, we're still discovering lost cities and all that. Like, do we really? I mean, I know we know based on science. Like, I'm not a person that doesn't, I believe in science. We've pieced together how dinosaurs look thanks to science and testing. And we've discovered tombs of pharaohs and things thanks to all the technology we have. But I'm just saying, like, we take it at face value without questioning what more there, or maybe there are people that do. I just personally don't. Like, I don't know how to word this in a way that won't offend someone.
Well, I understand what you first of all, at least on this podcast, you don't need to worry about political correctness because it's very limiting. And
no, I know, but I'm trying to say it in a way that's like
you want.
Conceptual. Like,
how can you offend somebody with an idea? That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to show you an example. It's easy to offend people, but which I respect that. But it's just like one day we just, and from that day forward, that history was that history. And even
new history was created without taking into consideration. So, for example, we know very little about ancient Egypt, right? Because they used to teach me, at least when I went to school, that the pyramids were the burial places for the pharaohs. It's absolutely not true because no bodies have ever been discovered inside of them. These things are, pharaohs were not buried inside of the pyramid. You didn't know that?
No, I'm trying to think of something I recently read, and I'm just thinking of where it
my
was.
point is that knowledge has been created and lost many, many times in human history.
And censored. Like, if you go to one country versus another, what they learn is going to be more based on them and then the storyline of how that country during that time saw a different country or the rest of the world is going to be skewed. So it's not all just fact. Like, it's not neutral ground, in my opinion, at least. And I haven't, taken courses in other countries. So again, I'm saying this really top of mind's opinion without any education behind it. I get smart, Polina. This is good. But like, it's skewed not necessarily directly in favor, but it's told from the reality of that country's experience in that moment in time versus other countries could have been feeling very different, right? Like,
well, I can give you a very simple example: World War II.
Yeah.
For example, this is by now very clear.
Yeah.
History of this period of time.
Yeah.
Told in Russian is going to be very different the way it was told during the war in German. And then today in German. Even the story that Germans told about World War II when Hitler was alive and story that was told now are two different stories. The same is true about Russia, Stalin, for example, and no Stalin. And with American history, it's different because it's kind of continuous. No super major wars happened except for the Civil War, right? But even there are differences. So virtual reality existed all the time. Because what you were trying to say, I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that reality could be one for people who live in the United States and different from people who live, let's say, in Portugal.
Yeah, like
Correct? Right.
and by I mean it in the
Meaning
sense of
the interpretation of the same event.
Yeah, which again is a virtual reality in its sense. And the older, I've been saying this a lot in different conversations I've been having of all contexts, I think, at least for over a year now. The more information I geek out and dive into, the more I'm just who I am and develop as a person, the more I just stop and realize every single one of us is literally living in our own reality. And no one, we all, and it's kind of cool, we all have the power to really process what's happening and who the protagonists, antagonists, inspirations, pain points of our lives are. And that in that exact same dynamic, someone else, it has a very different reality and you play a very different storyline into their world, good or bad. Like it's really cool, but it's insane. Like you really can go through life and create your own reality because we literally are walking around doing that. Like even me and you sitting here.
Right.
Color of the wall, I definitely know I see it. Like you can't get into my head and be like, Polina
Well, I'm color blind
I know.
for green.
But
so
I'm not but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
But you and I and another 7+ billion
Mhm.
people on Earth agreed that dollars are green. Okay?
Mhm.
And
yeah.
no,
Dollars.
for
Yeah.
the for the purpose
No,
of convenience.
I didn't hear the dollar part in my
Dollar,
mind. I
yeah.
skipped it and I was like, well, there's actually some really cool money out there. We
well,
got
but we
shafted.
agreed that dollars are green,
Yeah.
right? So it also would be nice if we agreed that our personal realities, whether they're virtual or not, don't necessarily have to become a trigger for a fight. We can respect each other's reality and still live peacefully, going about our daily business and our daily lives. It doesn't matter that the way you see green and I see green is different. And even in politics, I mean,
Can we just stay away from that?
Well, politicians do their own thing. No. But they are, for example, there are a few billion people in the world.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Who are Muslim. There are a few 100 million people of the world who are Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And they manage to live most of the time peacefully together because it's not such a big deal. Only randomly things go out of control. Or, for example, there is communist China, right? It is still communist.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the United States, and there is no war going on between them. You don't need to touch the wood, right? Or, for example, there is Russia, okay, coming for, talking about the mother country, and Europe, and there is no war going there, and they live in their own reality. Do you agree with that?
They definitely live in their own reality, yeah.
Right.
Yep. And how they see the rest of the world. And yeah, I think it's cool. Obviously, the circumstances of what experiences you're raised around are going to vary in the world as well. But again, I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't know how to even go into the black hole that my brain goes into in a cool way of just like, you really can shape your own way of looking at things and remember and process it. It's just so different from the next person. And I've just been thinking about that a lot. So I'm going to stop ranting because it's going to just.
Yeah, but the difference between reality and virtual reality.
But does any one of us actually know what reality is?
More and more.
But have any of us ever known what, like reality? This is a chair, right? We both agree this is a chair.
Right.
So as far as I can push it.
Right.
Because literally, oh my God, I had this conversation with someone once.
Right.
At least once. Who can say 1,020% they know I've seen reality? What's real? Like, what's real? Like, I know we're real, we're sitting here, but I mean, in terms of just the way we interpret information and the way that our brain takes it, stores it, like, who could, like, yeah, I'm touching this. I know I'm touching
Well,
this,
I'm going to make it totally crazy for you. So you just touched a microphone stand. The part you touched is metal.
Yeah.
Metal is made out of molecules. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Molecules are made
out of atoms. Do you agree about that?
Atoms are made out of particles. Do we agree so far?
Mm-hmm.
And particles are either waves, right?
Yeah.
Or energy.
Mhm.
And when you come to this level, actually, how come you can touch something and feel it? Because everything is just disappearing
Well, because
by
we
the time
push.
you came to the point of atom
Yeah, but
and
they push against
particles
each
of the
other.
atoms. No. But what I'm saying that our senses
Yeah.
also have limitations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So maybe on this very provocative, but still kind of positive note, we can ask our audience to please
Keep your brains wide open.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brainstorm 9000. If you like us, love us, or marginally tolerate us,
and definitely if you hate us,
then go on social media and give us a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or YouTube, or wherever you listen to us.
and remember,
Keep your brains open.